Yo, hey, check this out.
You're gonna learn today.
Welcome to the Lakeside Chat. I'm your host, Brother John Muhammad, and we'd like to thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of the Lakeside Chat. As always, we talk with community leaders, political figures, and everyday people. This week, we will be airing an interview that was conducted with Mayor Rick Kriseman, who is running for re-election of the city of St. Petersburg. As always, our goal is to provide information to the community. Our interviews do not necessarily constitute an endorsement of the candidate, but we wanted to make sure that we got the information to the people. As always, we continue to extend that invitation to all candidates who would like to participate in an interview on the Lakeside Chat, and you're welcome to have a seat and come and talk to us about your stances on the issues as well as why people should vote for you if you'd like to do so. Again, it's an open invitation that we've extended and we continue to extend to all candidates, and you're more than welcome to stop by the Lakeside Chat. If you'd like to be a guest, please go to facebook.com/Lakeside Chat and inbox us, and we'll make sure that we get back with you. Thank you again for tuning in, and now you can watch our interview with Mayor Kriseman. Welcome to this week's edition of the Lakeside Chat. I'm your host, Brother John Muhammad, and as always, we talk with community figures, political leaders, and everyday people. And today, we're honored to have candidate for mayor and current mayor of the city of St. Petersburg, Mayor Rick Kriseman, joining us on the Lakeside Chat.
It's great to be with you.
Thank you for coming. And what we usually do when we start off the segments of the Lakeside Chat, for those who don't know you, who is Rick Kriseman?
So Rick Kriseman moved to St. Petersburg in 1972, which makes me older than I wish I was.
Oh yeah.
Came from Detroit, was born in Detroit, finished elementary school at Pasadena, middle school at, or then I guess it was junior high school at Azalea.
Right.
And then went to the Bogosiega High School. University of Florida for undergraduate and Stetson for law school.
Okay.
So practiced law for about 27 years before I became mayor.
Okay.
I am married. My wife and I are celebrating our 25th anniversary this coming month. Thank you.
Awesome.
We have two kids. My daughter just turned 20, and she's a sophomore at the University of Florida. And my son is a freshman at St. Pete High.
All right.
And he'll be 15 next month.
Awesome.
She'll
be 15 next month also. Only 8.
It goes fast.
Yes. That's the baby girl too, so I'm really looking forward to that. So.
We are volunteer puppy raisers for Southeastern Guide Dogs. So we've raised 9 guide dog puppies. We get them when they're 12 weeks old, have them for about 14 months, and then we have to give them up.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, which is tough, but we know what these dogs are going to do and really, hopefully, change somebody's life. And then I got involved in politics, working on a campaign for a friend who was running from high school, who was running for State House.
Okay.
We didn't win the first one, but won the second one, and he kind of got me interested in it.
Right.
And then I first ran in 1999.
Okay, what seat did you run for?
City Council, District 1.
Okay.
Didn't win.
Okay.
But
that's usually how the first shot goes.
Seems to be, but I didn't want to, say, well, that's it, I'm done.
Right.
Got appointed a nuisance abatement board.
Okay.
Which is a great committee because it's all about cleaning up neighborhoods, getting rid of drug dealers and prostitutes.
Yeah. What time frame was this?
That would have been in 1999 also.
Okay, got it.
In 2000, and then got appointed to City Council in December 2000.
Okay.
Ran again in 2001, 2003. Ended up serving 6 years before I left council to go up to Tallahassee and serve in the State House for 6 years. And
got it.
got frustrated up there.
Yeah, in Tallahassee?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
good ideas don't seem to really matter much. It's all about...
I heard somebody say that's where good ideas go to die, right?
That is, whoever said that was very smart.
Right.
It's unfortunate. It's who's writing the checks and who's in power.
Yeah.
And it isn't about the people.
Right.
And so
Right.
decided to come back to St. Pete for politics, and where you can really have an impact and hopefully change your community for the better.
Right. That's awesome. And then just thinking about, like your time on council in, 2000 to 2007, what was that like? Just thinking, from progression from council to state house, what was the council days like?
Yeah, council days were great. We had a really strong city council. I had the honor of serving with school board member Renee Flowers.
Okay, got it.
Former Mayor Bill Foster.
Okay, was on council also.
Was on council.
So you on a who's who of the city council, right?
Ernest Williams, Jay Lacita, John Bryan, Virginia Littrell.
Okay.
It was a really strong council, and I think we took a sleepy city and kind of helped wake it up. It was during my time when I was on council, I actually ended up being the deciding vote.
Okay.
That we sold the Weeki Wachee property.
Okay, yeah.
And created that endowment fund basically for parks and recs. And
this is actually one of those Weeki Wachee projects.
There's amazing projects around this city that have been funded with Weeki Wachee funds. And you look at our dog parks; those were all Weeki Wachee funds.
Right.
This was so you can go all around the city and see different projects.
Right.
Getting ready to do a whole lot of trees.
Okay.
In and all around the city with Weeki Wachee funds, and so that was probably one of the most difficult votes I've ever cast.
Yeah.
But it was one of the best votes.
Awesome.
So.
Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing about hindsight is you get to look and see how things shook out. So that's great. And if there was one thing that maybe the audience didn't know about Rick Kriseman, what would that be?
Wow.
Kind of hard when you've done this for a while. Right?
Yeah, it seems like everything in my past is kind of good and bad. Yeah. So I guess here's an interesting. I used to be a ventriloquist.
Oh, okay.
So when I was growing up, I used to do birthday parties, some TV shows, the Toys for Tots telethon.
Okay. And so you had like a friend?
One of those puppets.
Yeah.
So I did.
Did he have a name?
Mine was Danny O'Day.
Okay.
It was kind of a traditional ventriloquist puppet back then. And
right.
So I did that, and I was a disc jockey in college.
Okay.
Broadcast major. Worked at a radio station for a little bit. All right. Always surprises people when I say that.
Yeah, I saw you at the Tropicana Field on the 1s and 2s a couple years ago. So.
Yeah, it's I always love when I'm talking about music, because I love music. And, and somebody will, I'll hear a song and I'll say who the artist was, and people will look at me like, how did you know? Right. So it's like, that's kind of what I used to do.
Yeah, cool. So what we'll take a real quick break, and then after the break, we're going to get into some of the issues and the reason why you're here.
Absolutely.
Of course, running for mayor, running for re-election for mayor, and we want to talk about the new deal for St. Pete and some of the other issues that are concerning the community. So
fantastic.
We'll talk about that in just a second with more from the Lakeside Chat. Welcome back to the Lakeside Chat. I'm your host, Brother John Muhammad, here with Mayor Rick Kriseman, also running for re-election for mayor of the city of St. Petersburg. And before the break, he gave us some interesting facts. And during the break, we always have great conversation as well. Too bad you couldn't be a part of that. but we thank you for watching. Please share the page, facebook.com/Lakeside Chat. And so one of the things that we've been working on, Mayor Kriseman, is the New Deal for St. Pete.
Yep.
The New Deal for St. Pete is a community-led agenda that highlights different points of progress that we want to make in the community. First question is, are you familiar with the New Deal for St. Pete?
Yes, I am familiar with it, and I think it's really an important document or a set of principles, really, of the direction that the city potentially can go in, and how we can really engage the community and really have an impact on the community.
Right, and that's one of the things when we were developing, just the process, through People's Budget Review. We went out and surveyed about 1,400 people. We met with community leaders and different activists, and then again everyday people, and they helped us craft it. So it wasn't just like a high level in a room type thing. And so with that, the points of progress are in 4 areas, and the first area that we like to talk about is affordable housing. And one of the points of progress is stopping displacement or stopping gentrification.
Yeah.
But I know there's a lot of misunderstanding. So first question is, what is your understanding of gentrification?
So to me, gentrification occurs in a couple ways. One, it's where we're forcing people out of their homes or businesses. And others are coming in and taking over those properties.
Right.
Another way is where we're making it impossible from a cost standpoint for people to be able to stay in their homes or businesses.
Right.
And so I think both of those, we've got some challenges, and we have to be really careful as we grow. And I think growth is important, because if you're not growing, then you're either stagnant or you're dying.
Yeah, right.
As we grow, we do it in such a way where we're not forcing out those people who really were what caused the growth to occur.
Right.
And I look at, for example, some of the businesses who've been pioneers in our community and made those investments in areas of our city where, at the time they came in, there wasn't a lot there.
Right.
And those areas are starting to revitalize now because of those folks. But yet, sometimes they're the ones who are getting pushed out, and that's what we don't want to see happen.
Right. And so just following up to that, what are some things that your administration, and you'll see this because you're the city mayor right now.
Right.
So the format, when I ask the questions, it'll be 2 parts. So what are some things that you've done, and what are some things that you plan to do to actually remediate that?
So one of the things that we've done is we've looked for opportunities, especially, for example, with housing, to create affordable housing opportunities within the community. When I came into office, we had about 800 blighted homes, a lot of them here in Childs Park. And we've been real aggressive at going after those blighted homes. In some cases, the homes could be repaired, and we wanted to see that if that can happen. But in those instances where they were too far gone, we've had them demoed, and we've worked with and partnered with nonprofits to have them come in, rebuild or renovate, and get them back where it's affordable, where people in the community can afford to take over those houses, whether it's renting them or buying them, and live in the community. So that's one area. When it comes to businesses, for example, one of the things we've been talking about is creating corridors. And looking at it from the standpoint of how do we not penalize a property owner, because they own the property, they have a right to make a profit, but also incentivize them or get them to recognize the role that the person who's renting that property played in that homeowner, or property owner I should say, and their property values going up. And so we're trying to figure out whether we achieve this by incentivizing and kind of using the carrot, or using the stick. Is the stick the way we want to go? And we've been trying to get feedback from the community, both the business community, big and small, and then residents, to see what makes sense, what's the best way for us to do that. But we know we're going to have to do something, because we're going to hit a tipping point where, if we're not careful, we're going to start looking like every other city. Which means that our locally owned small businesses get forced out. Our residents can't afford to live in our city.
And that's that's really one of the biggest concerns that came up during the process of surveying was the affordability of housing, and then again just the displacement. And we're still working on some different points of progress, and we thank you for your support that you've been giving us in that vein.
I think, and if I could add one other thing, I think we're going to have to really start looking for housing purposes at creating more density or multifamily. Because we're not going to be able to solve affordable housing with just building new houses, because we don't have the land. And we've got a glut of 2-bedroom, 1-bath, which is part of our challenge.
Because you got larger families now.
Exactly. And so I think we're going to have to start looking at multifamily, and then the real question that the community as a whole is going to have to decide is, what do we want that to look like?
Because multifamily in the the 60s and 70s was projects.
Yeah.
You know, so how do you develop multifamily without developing projects?
And I don't think it has to be that.
Right.
I mean, I think there are, and we've got some low-income housing and what I call middle-class housing, for example, that's gone up just off of 34th Street around 3rd Avenue.
Over there off of Burlington.
Yeah,
right?
Burlington.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Right,
And
right.
actually, the amenities there are fantastic. They're as nice as what I've seen in some of our downtown stuff
Right.
that's very expensive.
So what do you think contributed to bringing them and having them develop? Was that something that your administration
It is.
worked
We
with?
work really closely with those kind of developers and encouraging them and looking for tax breaks that we can
Okay.
help them with to incentivize them. Having a CRA
Right.
creates opportunities to incentivize. And
Okay.
so I think doing things like that is going to be critical, and then deciding, do we want long and, somewhere between 4 and 12 story, or
Yeah.
do we want, skinny and tall?
Right, right.
My guess is the community is going to want something that's not
Right.
quite so high.
Right. Oh yeah, that's we talk about that a lot too. When we used to look at Childs Park, and Brother Jabbar always mentions at some point we're gonna have to go up, but
Yep.
we have to decide how high we want to go up.
Yeah, that's a real question that we've got to get comfortable with.
Absolutely. And then another one of the points of progress deals with expanding educational opportunities. And one of the things that we saw was basically a disconnect. So you have students that may graduate from, Pinellas Technical College, or children of I say children now. So I'm dating myself. I'm saying how old I am. You say children that are coming out of college. You're getting kind of old. But when you have young people coming out of college, finding work and being able to put those skills that they have has been a challenge. And so we've asked that the city work with trade unions, green job creators, and others to convene some type of really broker a deal, basically, so we can find out where the resources are and how we can get people prepared for those. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, in fact, when we had one of our the budget open house, I know Rick Smith came and spoke to us and talked about that, and I told my staff right away, let's do that. I'd love to see us have that meeting and that convening where we can get some really good input from the community. I think one of the things that we've tried to do is to create that apprenticeship avenue, working with council, getting an ordinance and getting one that has some teeth in it.
Yes.
Because if there's no teeth, nobody's going to follow it, and it just sounds good and looks good, but it's not impacting anybody.
Right.
And I think this is one of the areas where my opponent and I have a little difference of opinion. He keeps talking about one particular organization for the apprenticeships. I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's ABC or it's plumbers and pipe fitters or whatever union it is, I don't care.
Right, because it's the need is great.
We just want apprenticeship programs. We want people to have a career path to a good career that pays them a good living wage, that they can provide for their families and have a future.
Awesome.
And so I don't care who does it. And the more apprenticeship opportunities we can create, the better. I know we're working right now with the in our contracts with the group that's going to be taking over the casino.
Okay.
And part of what we're talking with them about is having a culinary apprenticeship program. Because there's a lot of opportunities in that field, but you need to have that training and that opportunity to get that training that's real life hands-on.
Right. Awesome. And then just thinking about you mentioned living wages. That's also one of the points of progress, in the New Deal for St. Pete. So what are some of the things that you have done or will do to ensure that St. Pete becomes a living wage city?
Yeah, one of the things I did right away is I increased our minimum wage for all city employees and challenged the business community as a whole to match us.
Right.
I'm glad to see some took that challenge. The Rays were an example of one who said, you know what, you're right, that we need to pay a living wage, and we need to pay more as far as that minimum wage. We also committed to 15 by 20.
Okay. Shout out to the Fight for 15,
that's
Kofi Hunt, and everybody who's leading that locally.
Absolutely, and you got to make that happen. I mean, and every community is different. $15 in some communities is a lot, in others it's not.
Right.
In my mind, it's a start. It's moving us in the right direction.
Right.
Am I convinced that's where it should top out? No.
And so just thinking about that, you've gotten some pushback. I just saw an article recently when they were talking about the cost of $15 an hour or raising the minimum wage. If we could get maybe an exclusive, how would you respond to those who say it's going to cost too much for us to, raise wages in the city?
I think if you do it the way we're doing it, where we're not just all of a sudden dropping it on and saying, all right, today it's 10, tomorrow it's 15.
Right.
But scaling it in, which is how we're doing it, which gives everybody an opportunity to plan for it, to budget for it.
Right.
And I think if you do it that way, I don't buy that argument.
Right.
There's too many studies that say that putting more money in, paying people, they're going to turn around. That money's going right back into the economy.
Right.
They're not taking it and keeping it and not spending it.
Right.
And so I think that's that article's a red herring. I don't buy it.
Okay, yeah, that was just interesting when I saw it.
And I'd say something else, but of what I really believe about it, but I'm not going to. Because but I don't buy it.
Okay, awesome. And then in addition to like raising the wage for city workers, there's an ordinance right now, the living wage ordinance, to raise it for contractors.
Yeah, there is.
What's your thoughts on that?
So what we've said from the administration side is we think it's important to do that. The only concern, if I had any, again, is I don't want it to jump so fast that it creates a problem. I think if we scale it, we're going to get the results we want. We're going to continue to see it go up, and we're not going to put the people who are doing business with us in a position where they're going to have trouble adjusting their budgets quick enough.
Yeah, because again, just kind of hearing and responding to the criticism, some people said that it would hinder people from bidding on projects and it may slow down the process. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I also think it is and anytime you put a policy in like this that's going to have a fiscal impact, you have to decide what your values are. What's important to you as a community. And if this is important to you as a community, then you do it recognizing, it might cost us a little bit more, but it's important to us. It's who we want to be. We want to be a community that's progressive, that invests back in the people of the community, and because it's important to us, we're willing to pay a little bit more.
Awesome. All right, great points. And so what we'll do is we'll take another quick break, and then we'll come back with more from Mayor Kriseman on the Lakeside Chat. Welcome back to the Lakeside Chat. I'm your host, Brother John Muhammad, here with Mayor Rick Kriseman, also candidate for re-election for the city of St. Petersburg. Another one of the points of progress, talking about the New Deal for St. Pete, is the need for community wealth. And we talk with business owners and those who like to start businesses, and one of the barriers that they're finding is having access to capital. Have you experienced that, or have you heard that as well? And what are some of the things that you plan on doing to address it?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we've really tried to do differently. When we created the CRA, for example, when we did it, we expanded the jurisdiction of it, so that it wasn't just Midtown, because Childs Park's not in Midtown.
Exactly.
And what's happening here, along with everywhere else south of Central, is
Thank you for saying that, by the way, because people say, Midtown, and then it's like,
I personally, it's not that I don't want to respect Midtown, but I don't like to just talk about Midtown. I like to talk about everything south of Central. Because we have challenges not just in the Midtown area. And so we went to the county and we said, look, and we know historically when you set up a CRA, you're just spending the money on kind of infrastructure. We think it's important to do something more than that. We think we need to be able to invest in people and in businesses. And so we asked and were granted the opportunity to really take a CRA and kind of blow it up and do something different with it. And so we've been using some of those proceeds to invest it back directly in our businesses. And so in answer to your question, I think there's two things that businesses need. One is startups need some capital for startup. And so through our greenhouse, which works to try and connect people with capital, through the TBBIC, who we've invested in, and they've used that money to invest in. And then some other programs that we have where we're investing directly in startups. We're trying to provide some seed money for a startup to get going, where they can really get their business off the ground. But we also find that businesses that have started, it's taking that next step and expanding. That sometimes is almost scarier than starting the
getting in business.
Because you always worry, all right, I got something going. If I take that next step, am I gonna kill my business? And so we're trying to help those businesses with the CRA and with our funding. And so, for example, Dolores is on 49th Street.
Yeah.
You drive by that building right now, and you see how she's taken CRA dollars and invested it back in her business, and it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it's going to help her grow her business, which we want to see. So we're trying to do it in a couple different ways, investing directly in the people and in their startups, and directly into their businesses, so they can take that business and expand it and take it to that next level.
Gotcha. And then one of the again, just hearing people talk about the challenges with CRA and the process is when you have to come up with funds up front to match the funds.
Yeah.
That's been one of the challenges also, particularly in the first year. When we rolled it out, it was brand new.
Yeah.
And the programs have been adjusted a little bit. But would you speak to that? Just how could we address people who say, I want to take advantage of this program, but I don't have the money to be able to match it or pay it up front.
Yeah, one of the things that we knew it was the first year,
right? And
there's going to be growing pains as we go through this process, and we're going to learn and adjust based on what we learn. And so we're going to continue to look at the CRA every year. One of the things that was frustrating to me was I felt like we didn't have enough people even apply.
Okay.
And some of it was that they said, we didn't know about it.
Yeah.
So we're trying to increase awareness around the programs and the different programs we have available, to attack the barriers.
Right.
And if there is a barrier, see how do we get around that? How do we create where we're able to get money directly in that doesn't always require a match.
Okay, got it.
And continue to make changes as we go. The beauty is that with what we see happening every year, this pool of money is growing bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And so it's going to allow us to get more creative and more flexible,
right?
Because we'll have more dollars available to us to get more creative and flexible, and to even create new programs that we don't even have in existence right now.
Right. And then with the you mentioned the greenhouse, but also one of the points of progress for the New Deal is to develop financial empowerment centers and assist residents with building wealth through financial literacy.
Yes. And we have that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me about that.
We actually received a National League of Cities grant. Duke Energy has been a partner with us, United Way, and we are creating a financial empowerment center. It's actually over by Campbell Park.
Okay.
And it's going to be a place where we don't just want to teach our kids about how to save money, what to do with it when they save it. We want to work with their parents too.
Right.
And one of the things that we've been talking about wanting to do is start savings accounts for kids and seed those, so we can start teaching kids early about how to save money and how to build wealth.
Right.
Because one of the things in Gypsy Gallardo did a study that she shared with me, comparing, for example, St. Pete with Durham, North Carolina, and looking at African American wealth and reinvestment. And Durham has been much more successful than we have. Part of the reason is that successful African Americans in Durham have reinvested in their community. We haven't seen that as much here.
Right.
And so initially, I think it's going to take some outside dollars investing in the community and to help the community build that wealth up.
Right.
And then the community can reinvest in itself.
Right. And then with those financial empowerment centers, that's another one of those things that we didn't get a whole lot of press on it. I remember it was groundbreaking, but it wasn't really widely published.
I appreciate you asking about that, because that's really important. There's too many people that when they don't know how to build it, and then when they get some money, what to do with it, so that they can start creating the wealth and reinvesting it back into the community.
So will this be the only one that you'll do, or will there be others that you envision coming to the city?
Hopefully we can create more than just this one center. Right now our goal is to get this one, get it open, get it off the ground, get it successful, and then build on it. Okay, awesome. And then in the last few minutes that we have, we'll talk about some hot topics, right? Okay. So here we go. You sit up in my chair. In a previous segment, you talked about the Manhattan Casino. And again, framing the conversation in terms of gentrification, the historic significance of the building. Your decision to go with Callaloo Group has been under scrutiny about the process. So let's maybe talk not so much about the decision, but the process that led to the Callaloo Group being selected. Would you mind sharing just kind of what the runway was like and how that happened? Absolutely. So we went out to an RFP and out to the community, and we got 2 responses to the RFP.
Okay.
When we looked at both of them, our big concern was that neither of them would be sustainable.
Okay.
Both groups that responded, they're good businesses, but one of them's a food truck, for example, and you look at the Sylvia space, that's a big space.
Right.
The other business, same thing. They had a small restaurant with like 4 or 5 tables, 6 tables.
And looking to go.
And
What we talked about earlier, the expansion and how you take that step to go.
And
Right.
that was, in our minds, our fear was it was too big a jump.
Okay.
And what we didn't want to see happen in the community was what happens far too often. Somebody comes in, you know, they open up, they get everybody's hopes up, and then a year or 2 later they're gone.
Right.
And then
right.
we're right back at ground zero again, starting all over again.
Right.
You know, and this community, I feel, has gone through that, just that revolving door too much.
So let me ask you this, and this may be a little bit off topic, but you know, thinking about that, when a business starts up in a community and then the business fails, what part or what responsibility does the mayor of the city have in the failing of the business? Because I know a lot of times, you know, if a business closes, for example, when we talk about Tangerine Plaza, Sweet Bay came, Sweet Bay closed, everybody looks at the mayor. Walmart comes, Walmart closes, everybody looks at the mayor. So what exactly is the responsibility of the mayor to ensure that these businesses stay or succeed when they come into our community?
Well, I think the important part is if you get it right from the front end, then and that's, to me, that's the most important thing that the mayor and the government can do is, if it's, especially when it's city-owned property, get it right from the front end.
Right.
That way you don't have problems on the back end. Once there's a deal that's already been set, at that point in time, all you can do really is talk about it, publicize it, try and
So use what they call the bully pulpit.
Use the bully pulpit.
Right.
But even when you do that, you know, if you've got a business, and unfortunately I think this is what we had with Sylvia's, you know, what I kept hearing from the public was, okay, the food is okay, pricing's not the best, and service isn't great. And when you're a restaurant, if you have all 3 of those things, that's not a good thing.
Right.
And there's nothing that I can do as the mayor to change those. I can talk to the owner,
Right.
but I don't own the business. So
Right.
I can't make them change the price point, I can't make them change the quality of the food, and I can't make them change the service.
Right. Right.
And so for me, the best thing I can do is get it right from the front end.
Okay.
And so that's what our goal has been, was twofold. We said this right from the beginning when we did the RFP, make sure it's sustainable and it honors the history of the building. And so when we rejected those 2, some time went by, and then we got an unsolicited bid from the Callaloo Group.
Okay.
And under state law and our rules, we're required to put a notice out, and we put a 45-day notice out saying, look, we've got an unsolicited bid. Anybody else that's interested, send us your proposal.
Right.
We'll take a look at it. We got 3 more proposals.
Okay.
2 of them really didn't have a whole lot of merit to them. Only one other one did.
Okay.
And then so we looked at that one, and we looked at the Callaloo Group with those criteria of, is it going to be sustainable? Is it going to meet the legacy? And then beyond that, do they have? Are they going to hire from the community?
Right.
And involve the community? Is there going to be any kind of apprenticeship programs that are going to be in place?
In line with the theme of workforce development.
Exactly.
Right.
And what we've seen when we reviewed both of those was we felt that the Callaloo Group gave us the greatest chance for success and met all of, or a majority of, the criteria that we were looking for. Now, you know, politically, the easy thing for me to have done would have been to say, you know what, I'm not making a decision until after the election.
Right.
But 25 jobs are going to get created there. And I didn't feel it was right for me to say I'm more important than the 25 people who are going to get a job.
Right.
That potentially are going to be working by the holidays.
Yeah.
And be able to provide a nicer holiday for their family because they got a job.
Right.
And to me, that was more important
Than timing it.
for my campaign.
Right.
That's not what I'm about.
Got it.
You know, I would rather, I mean, I want to win.
Yeah.
But I would rather those 25 people get a job and have people not vote for me because of it than, than have chosen myself over the people.
Got it. And then we kind of talked about Tangerine Plaza. What are some of the plans that you have for Tangerine Plaza? Again, one of the points of progress for the New Deal for St. Pete is supporting the development of community-owned co-ops.
Yep.
Where's your administration on that, along with the plans that you have for the plaza?
Yeah, you know, we've been looking at at that plaza to try and figure out what's going to be sustainable there. What does the community need from a food standpoint? What we feel very confident in saying is that a 36,000 square foot grocery store is not going to work there.
Yeah.
It's not going to work in Coquina Key.
Right.
It's not going to work, and I don't remember the name of the center that's out by where I live in West St. Pete.
Yeah, well, I saw you at the gym, right?
Yeah, that's right. We had a
9th Avenue, yeah.
We had a Sweet Bay there too,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
closed.
Right. 62nd over, what is that? 62nd Avenue South, Pinellas Point?
Yep, it's
Right.
not going to work there. So,
Right.
that model isn't seeming to be working anymore. And so, if we're going to bring in food, whether it's in a co-op or it's a smaller scaled grocery store or a market, that's what I think it's going to take.
Okay.
But
But not the big box retailers. And just funny that you say that, it makes me think about a few things. So Tangerine Plaza always gets a bad rap for closing, but we don't talk about so much 62nd Street, that Pinellas Point that closed.
That's right.
The one on 9th Avenue that's still this huge building that's vacant.
Yep.
And all of the other businesses that are closing, retail businesses that
Yeah.
are closing because of like online sales and those types of things.
It has had a huge impact, and it's really changed the retail dynamic.
Right.
And so we've got to look at, and we're trying to look again at, what is the new world, so to speak, that we're
Right.
living in,
Yeah.
in the retail industry, and what can we do there that's going to serve the community and be there for a while, and,
Right.
and not be gone in a couple of years again. I think the deals that brought Walmart and before that Sweet Bay were structured in a way where they were heavy on the incentives.
Right.
And then when the incentives went away, the bottom fell out.
Right. Right.
And it reminds me of there was a Tallahassee wanted to have direct flights into Tallahassee
Okay.
to serve the capital. So the city of Tallahassee subsidized a couple airlines, and there was direct flights from Tampa, for example, Miami.
Right.
But once that subsidy went away, those flights went away.
Right. Because
so-
that's to your point about sustainability.
That's right. So
Yeah.
we've got to come up with a model that isn't sustainable only as long as there's city subsidy.
Right.
It needs to be sustainable on its own, so it can be there, and again, the community, it can grow in the community and be there as a resource
All right.
for the community.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you. It's just we got a lot more that we could talk about, some follow-up questions that we could ask, but we just don't have time. And our producer is saying, remind you of November 7th, and we absolutely will.
Early voting starts on next Saturday, the 28th, at 9 to 5 at the supervisor's office, 5th Street and 1st Avenue North, Friday and Saturday, both weekends.
And other than that, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the audience, or as a closing statement, if you had to give one, or something that you'd like to say at this point?
Absolutely. I think the community has a very clear decision but in this election between the two candidates. One of us is looking forward to the future and has been endorsed by former President Obama. The other one is talking about going backwards, doing things that they did before, which really didn't change and lift the community up and out of poverty. We've done some things and we've done them differently, and we're starting to see progress. But we got a ways to go, and we know we do. We're committed to continuing to move forward and really seeing this community be a beacon in the city of St. Petersburg.
All right. And with that, we'll leave you with our parting words. Thank you for viewing the Lakeside Chat. And always, we encourage you, believe and do good.